Hello, hello. Hello. Hi, Lauren. Let's rage. How's everyone doing tonight? How's the sound? Is the sound good? Testing one, two, three. Oh my God. Hey, Georgia. Hey, Paulson. It's good. Thanks, Lauren. I have to find a pair of earphones in January. Even though I have Jake's, these are driving me crazy sometimes. None now. I have a pair of Jake's. They're little though. Marge is cold. It's cold here. I know. It's like 65. What is it here? I think it's like 65. I don't know. Let me see. 55. 55. 55. How's everyone doing tonight? If everyone could share it out, I would appreciate it. Oh, you know who I have to text Steven because thank you for sharing it. I always have to remind him to come in. And if my mods are on standby tonight, feels like -2. That's cold. That's too cold. You know who I haven't seen in here? I was thinking of
Very
this.
unamused.
I haven't seen Keith's cousin, Shannon, in a long time. I haven't seen Shannon in here. Here and ready, Katie. Thank you. I'm reading those messages. Oh no. Paula, when you get a chance, can you get me that information? Because I love those keychains. I can't show everybody here, but we're going to do something over on the other app, show everybody those, or we'll put them. Well, you have them up on. You have them up, right? I want to get. I want to get some of those, but I got to talk to Lauren first. I don't want to get in trouble. We need to send those out to people. I'll send them out when I can. Here we go. Let's see. So tonight we're going to be, Keith will be calling in, my co-host. He's going to be reading his book, Trauma Unraveled. It just came out. Oh, Lauren or Katie, I hate to drive you crazy. Could somebody share it out with Jamie? I'm sure she knows. Oh my God. Oh, thank you. All right. I haven't seen Shannon in here. But yeah, so he's going to read the book and you are going to be amazed because he really is amazing, my friend. My co-host, I should say my host, and I'll be the co-host now. When you hear him read the book, you know what we have to add to that, to the munchie too, because so I don't have to share it out, because she wanted to be here tonight. Oh, thanks, Lauren. But how's everyone doing tonight? It's Friday. It's Friday. Here he is, the man of the hour.
This is Global Tel Link. You have a prepaid call from Keith Erickson.
Oh.
An incarcerated individual at the Pleasant Valley State Prison, Coalinga, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hello, MargeC.
Hey, Keith. How are you?
The phone was acting up earlier when I was talking to Jamie, so hopefully we don't have no issues with it.
Oh, okay. All right. How you doing today?
I hope not.
I know.
Good. We just had dog program meeting, and then we took pictures, a Christmas photo shoot. So we're taking pictures, and Angel bought a tree. We decorated the tree. It was fun.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
A real tree. Real Christmas trees too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they were nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So are you feeling much better? You sound better.
Yeah, I'm just a little tired, but I'll be okay. I drank some coffee. Jamie told me to get your butt up, drink some coffee, and she goes, "Where's my chipper guy at?"
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm drinking my coffee too now.
Really?
Yeah, I'm drinking coffee now. Yep.
So the book that I have, the copy that I have is the author's copy. So this is the book that I got before I made corrections. So there's 2 stories missing at the end, which you have in your book, which are Jade's story and then Pedro's story.
Okay.
So I don't have them. So if you could help me out when we do the reading, if you could read the last 2.
Okay.
Which is should only be about 6 to 7 pages, I think, 8 pages. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I only have a little bit of the first part of Jay's, and then so I had to correct those.
Oh, okay. Hey, Jamie. Jamie's here. Oh, no. Did we lose you? Keith? I think we lost him. This happened the other night with, we can't hear you. I'm sure you can hear me. This happened with Manny the other night. Lauren, this happened the other night. We might have some issues. We'll hold and see. Yeah, this is exactly what happened. We'll see what happens. Oh. Let's see.
I have a prepaid call from
Keith Erickson.
an incarcerated individual at the Pleasant Valley State Prison, Coalinga, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
So it just kicks me off.
Yeah, we had this issue with Manny the other night. He called in and he was on with us for a little bit, and he can hear us, but we couldn't hear him. Were you able to hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. It's just now it did it earlier, and then it just kicks me out. So
Yeah.
I have to keep an eye on the screen to tell when it kicks me out, which is crazy, but
Yeah.
I hope it stops.
Are you supposed to get new tablets? Were you supposed to get them?
I don't know. Oh, yeah, we were supposed to. Yeah, we were supposed to. I don't know what happened.
Okay, I thought
I don't know
so.
what happened yet. But, no, we were supposed to.
Okay.
But hopefully it doesn't do it. If it doesn't, I'll just keep trying to call. I'll keep calling back. But hopefully it doesn't do it too much.
Okay.
You know?
Jamie, is Cousin Shannon coming? Is she joining us? You know, I haven't seen her the last few lives.
I don't know. She's been, I know she's been busy. It's probably real busy because the holidays.
The holidays, yeah, that's true.
But I'm not sure, yeah. We called her last week, though.
Oh,
Called her on the
okay.
weekend. She was just busy.
Okay. And Keith, I wrote to you. I know you've been busy, but thank you for the painting of Vinny. It was amazing. Everyone loves it. Oh my
You're
God.
welcome.
It was beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome.
So special.
Yeah.
It's right next to my bed.
Right?
Yeah.
I was saving it to send it to you for Christmas. I
I-
was saving it. I was hoping you weren't going to say nothing about it because I was going to send it for Christmas anyway.
Much better. It's good. I'm happy with it. I want it right next to me. It's so special. I can't believe, man, you're good.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored.
You are
and recorded.
good. I can't believe you could do that. Everyone's like, can't believe you. Like when I said you did it, and I showed them the picture you took it from. Oh my God! Like his jawline, you got his mouth, everything. It's like wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm glad you love it.
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
I'm glad
love
you
it.
love it.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. I am going to
Well-
treasure that forever. You don't know what that means to me.
No, I knew it was special.
Yep,
That's why I wanted to do it.
I know.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do it.
Yep. Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
But whenever you're ready,
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'll open up with dedication first. First and foremost, thank you for having me tonight. Just to, do my live book reading. This book is very special to me, not just because of my own story, but because of the men that were willing to trust in me and have confidence in me to share their story and to sit down with me and do these hours on hours of interviews. So I'll open up now. Dedication to every person who has experienced trauma and found the courage to speak their truth, to those still searching for their voice, to the families who stand beside the incarcerated, refusing to give up hope, and to the memory of those we have lost along the way. May these stories remind us all that healing is possible, redemption is real, and every human life holds immeasurable worth. Acknowledgements. This book would not exist without the courage of the men who shared their stories. To Ralph, Joseph, Manuel, James, Trevor, Daniel, Armitage, Francisco, Tommy, Carlos, Stephen, Jay, and Pedro. Thank you for your vulnerability, your honesty, and your trust. Your willingness to revisit painful memories in service of healing, both your own and others, is a profound act of generosity. To the families who have stood by these men through the darkest times, thank you for your unwavering love and support. Your presence in their lives has made transformation possible. To the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation staff who facilitate rehabilitative programs and support incarcerated individuals in their growth, your work matters. To Dr. Nandi Sojourner Crosby and Freedom Conscious Inc., thank you for believing these stories deserve to be heard and for creating a platform that amplifies the voices of incarcerated writers. And finally, to every reader who picks up this book with an open heart, thank you for bearing witness to these journeys. May these stories inspire compassion, understanding, and a commitment to building a more just world. Publishers forward. The criminal justice system produces statistics, case numbers, and sentencing guidelines. What it rarely produces are stories. Real human stories that reveal the complexity of how people end up behind bars and what happens to their hearts and minds once they get there. The men whose voices fill these pages carry wounds that predate their crimes by years, sometimes decades. They entered prison systems already broken, bearing traumas from childhoods marked by neglect, abuse, and violence. For many, incarceration became an unexpected crucible where, for the first time, they were forced to face what had been done to them and what they, in turn, had done to others. Trauma Unraveled offers something rare, access to the interior lives of incarcerated men engaged in the hardest work human beings can undertake. This is not a collection of excuses or justifications. These are honest reckonings with pain, written by men determined to understand how their own suffering became the weapon that harmed others. They ask themselves the question most of us never have to confront. How did I become someone capable of causing such harm? Keith Erickson has structured this collection with intention and care. He introduces each story with context and compassion, then steps aside so each contributor can speak in his own voice. Finally, Keith returns to illuminate the patterns that connect individual stories to larger truths about trauma, accountability, and the possibility of healing. This structure honors both the particular and the universal. It holds space for the individual journey and the common threads of human brokenness and resilience. These men write from California prisons. Many are serving long sentences. Some have been incarcerated for decades. Yet what emerges from these pages is not despair, but something more complex. Determination without denial, accountability without self-hatred, and the fragile hope that change, even profound change, remains possible. You will likely feel uncomfortable reading these stories. Sit with that discomfort. It signals something important, the inadequacy of our simplest narratives about good and evil, victim and perpetrator, monster and human. These essays challenge our assumptions about who deserves redemption and what justice really means. They force us to reckon with questions we might prefer to avoid. These voices offer essential insights into trauma, resilience, and what genuine rehabilitation requires. These are insights that can only come from those who have lived through darkness and chosen to examine it honestly. We believe these stories can help us build a more humane and effective approach to justice, one that acknowledges both harm and humanity. To write these essays requires courage. To read them requires a willingness to witness pain without flinching and complexity without easy answers. If you can bring that willingness to these pages, you will find something worth the discomfort, a deeper understanding of how we wound each other and how, even in the most unlikely places, healing can begin. Nandi Sojourner Crosby, PhD, founder and chief editor, Freedom Conscious, Inc. Part 1, Keith's Voice. In this first section, I share my own journey through trauma, incarceration, and the beginning of healing. These reflections and poems represent my personal reckoning with a painful past and my discovery that transformation is possible even in the darkest places. My voice serves as an introduction to the themes that run through all the stories in this book: the weight of childhood wounds, the masks we wear to survive, and the courage it takes to finally face up.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Trauma smothered my ability to love. Keith's story. Nearly 32 years ago, I was arrested, tried, and convicted of first-degree murder. I was 22 years old. What makes my story unique is not that my co-conspirator was a woman, but that she was my mother, the woman who gave me life in the first place. For many, it was unimaginable for a mother to place her own son into harm's way. For others, those who knew me or could relate to my childhood trauma, they began to understand as they learned more about my life. My childhood traumas at the hands of an abusive stepfather I called the monster shaped everything that followed. My story did not start or end the day my mother placed a loaded revolver into my hands and urged me to shoot and kill her living boyfriend. My story, my deepest traumas, have been with me since I was just a little boy. My biological father was out of the picture when I was 3. It was just me, my brother Blaine, and my mother, Deborah, for a few years until she met the man who would become my stepfather. I have no memories of my mother being with my father. As I got older and heard the ways my parents spoke of each other, I could not understand how two people who brought children into the world could hate each other so much. Their bitterness ran deep and lasted until my father's passing from cancer just last year. I never imagined my life would turn out the way it has. I do not think anyone does. At the age of 22, I had already suffered more trauma than many people experience in a lifetime. Eventually, I needed to understand why. So I retraced the footsteps of my journey. It was not easy confronting the hurt, the pain, and the ugliness. But when I recognized my own strength and courage, I began to heal. Today, I'm still work in progress, growing stronger each time I face another piece of that ugliness. When my mother met my stepfather, Jerry, my brother and I were 5 and 6. In the beginning, things in our home felt normal. It was the first male role model we had been around since we were babies. We had a nice home and a shared bedroom filled with toys. We went to school, loved playing sports, and for a while, life seemed good. My mother and Jerry both had good jobs and took care of their responsibilities as parents. But then things began to change behind closed doors. Jerry was into muscle cars and owned his own body shop in town. My mother was beautiful, of Mexican and Cherokee Indian descent. We lived across the street from my elementary school, and the kids would walk by every day fascinated by the hot rods parked in our driveway. At any given time, we had super sport Chevelles, Camaros, Novas, and Monte Carlos out front. My favorite car was my mother's 1976 forest green Monte Carlo. The kids in my neighborhood thought my mother was beautiful, but they had a different opinion of my stepfather. Jerry was not a kind man and did not like children, but they say love is blind, and from what I understood at that time as love, my mother did everything to please him, even putting him before us boys. The fighting began in their bedroom. My brother and I would be told to go to our rooms or play across the street on the school field. We thought that was all parents did. Then it got worse. Jerry hit my mother for the first time that I can remember, and she came out of the bedroom the next morning with a blackened eye and bruised face. Jerry went to work, and she stayed home with us. Before long, his abuse became a normal part of our home. Their lifestyle began to change as well. They started having parties, using drugs and alcohol, and people came in and out of our house at all hours. I did not understand why we had to go to our rooms when people came over, but when the sheriff's department raided our home and arrested my parents, I began to understand. We had all those nice things because they were selling drugs. They were bailed out the same day, but much of our property was taken away, including our cars and dirt bikes. My parents continued their behavior, but on a smaller scale. Their relationship worsened after the arrest. We started to struggle financially. They fought constantly. Jerry began beating my mother and then turned on us boys. We started losing everything, including the auto body shop. Around this time, he became a heroin addict. He grew more violent and unpredictable and felt like prisoners in our own home. For the next few years, his abuse toward my brother and me became unbearable. Even my mother began to distance herself. As a victim herself, she was tormented by this man, this monster who found us every time we tried to leave. One day, I found him slumped over with a needle in his arm, and from that day on, it felt like he hated me. I remember wishing he were dead. Deep down, I carried a secret much heavier than the beatings. Between the ages of 9 and 11, Jerry molested me several times while my mother was not home.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Ashamed and confused, I lost the outgoing spirit I once had. By the time I suffered my last beating from him, I felt hollow. The morning after my 11th birthday, Jerry woke up dope sick and angry that I had eaten the last pieces of cake. He dragged me into my bedroom by my hair. Behind that locked door, he beat me with his fist as I screamed for my life. I'll call back.
Okay. All right, everyone who's new, welcome in. Keith Erickson is with me tonight, my co-host, and he is reading his book, Trauma Unraveled. Thank you all for joining. I'm so happy everyone's here. So every 15 minutes, as most of you know, he has to call back. And thank you, everyone. Tap the screen. I can't use my tapper, unfortunately. Did Keith just start reading the book? No, he just started. It's just the beginning. Yeah, we're on page 4.
This is Global Tel Link. You have a prepaid call from
Keith Erickson.
Hey, Wiley
an
Swish.
incarcerated individual at the Pleasant Valley State Prison.
And you can get the book on Amazon.
This
It's
call
available
and
on
your telephone
Amazon.
number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
My mother and our neighbors kicked down the door while he stood there holding me by my neck, my feet dangling above the carpet. I suffered collapsed lungs, broken ribs, and abrasions on my face. Jerry was arrested and hauled off in a police car while I was airlifted to the local hospital. The next day, my mother brought him to see me after helping his parents bail him out of jail. Once again, she placed me in harm's way. My resentment toward her grew darker that day. She stood there crying and pleading with me that Jerry did not mean to do what he had done. She had no idea what else he had done to me. He had taken my innocence before I ever had a chance to feel safe. Child Protective Services took me from my mother. Jerry eventually went to prison, and my mother divorced him. But my relationship with her was never the same. I resented her, yet I still felt loyal to her because she was my mother, the only one I had. I spent years in and out of foster care and juvenile detention facilities, including in California Youth Authority. I became worse, exposed to more trauma that added to what I had already endured. My early years in the juvenile system taught me how to defend myself, and I promised I would never let anyone victimize me again. By 18, I was already in the adult system, the California Department of Corrections for residential Berkeley. I gravitated toward the gang subculture, a place where I felt accepted among other broken men like myself. Violence became normal, just like the criminal mindset I had adopted as a teenager. I was always searching for acceptance and validation, no matter the cost. I never hesitated to put myself in harm's way to please others. In 1994, after paroling and reuniting with my mother, whom I had not lived with since childhood, I found her living with another man who drank and abused her. It was as if nothing had changed. She seemed trapped in the cycle of domestic violence that would not release her. The night she called to tell me her boyfriend had been drinking and forced her to perform oral sex before passing out, I felt numb. I knew exactly what she was asking when she said she wanted me to do something before he killed her. That night, after we drove to her house together, we stood in the dark hallway staring at each other. I took the revolver from her hand, the one she had taken from his gun cabinet, and turned toward the bedroom where he lay sleeping. 2 gunshots changed my life forever. Weeks later, my mother and I were arrested for his murder and eventually sentenced to life in prison. When I returned to prison, I carried an attitude that I cared about nothing and would die there. It was another mask, a shield to protect myself from the world. Since childhood, I have believed in simple survival. I used my trauma as an excuse for everything I did. Without accountability, I fueled a lifestyle of hate and pain that kept everyone at a distance. I thought I was protecting myself, but the truth was that the person I needed protection from was me. There is an ugly side of prison that brings out the worst in people. I believe everyone is capable of terrible things given the right circumstances. I've been housed in the worst prisons, including the SHU, or segregated housing units, of 4 different facilities. It took me 13 years of solitary confinement to start fighting for myself instead of a prison gang. Dropping out of the gang was the most significant and most difficult decision.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
It meant standing on my own and taking accountability for my future. What I did not see coming was that true accountability required me to confront my past and the trauma that ran deep. Over the years, I've struggled to find the real Keith Erickson, the man and not the scared boy. Every part of me that hurt, every painful memory, every person or place tied to that pain, I had to let it go. Letting go felt impossible. I thought it meant saying what had happened to me was okay, that my mother did the best she could, or that the abuse at my stepfather's hands did not shape me. It was easier said than done. I held on to resentment for decades before I began to understand what it really meant to forgive. When I began writing this book, I had no intention of sharing that I was molested. I planned to take that secret to my grave. I believed I had healed from it because I had buried it. But I was wrong. It was the final piece of the puzzle I needed to face if I wanted to heal. The men whose stories fill this book gave me the courage to step forward. Today it feels liberating to say out loud that I was sexually abused without shame or fear. Prison life combined with the trauma men like me carry is incredibly difficult to navigate. I now see the prison system as a massive trauma center, a place where men and women are warehoused but rarely treated for what they have suffered. That untreated pain leads to more harm, a cycle that intensifies behind these walls. Violent people enter prison and often become even more violent because that is what is expected of them. I once believed I had to be that way to survive. Later, I realized that we have the power to heal no matter where we are. That realization gave me a moral obligation to help others. I found my way in a world where the odds were stacked against me. I could have stayed on the same destructive path, but I could not keep hurting the way I had been. I say it often, hurt people hurt other people. The pain I carried smothered my ability to love, to trust, and to be who I was meant to be. I stopped caring about myself and how my actions affected others. Prison has given me an unexpected kind of freedom, the chance to rediscover life. My hope is that others will find their way too, just as I have begun to find mine. Scared but sturdy. I often think of myself as a sturdy ancient oak tucked away in the still quiet of the forest. I have many scars, but I believe each one is part of the necessary affliction to be overcome, each one bringing me closer to where I am today. Each scar, like the markings of an oak tree, is a measure of my inner growth displayed for the world to see. Today I did something I have never done before. I stood naked from the waist up in front of the worn and cracked wall mirror of my prison cell. My reflection stared back at me as if to say, I have waited for you to notice me for quite some time now, my friend. All I could do was stare. I was covered from neck to feet in prison tattoos, the flesh billboard of the places I have been and the moments I wanted to capture beneath my skin through self-expression. My reflection resembles so many other men locked away within these cold walls, but I knew the truth as I stood there. I had been hiding behind so many scars for so long, and I wanted to finally crawl out from behind them once and for all. I lifted my arms to see more, to explore the ink of my torso. My fingers traced the now mature scars where breathing tubes had once been inserted into my chest, and I went immediately back to my childhood. Back to the abuse I'd suffered at the hands of a violent stepfather who nearly took my life at the age of 11. I stood for a moment, living what it felt like to struggle for my last breath because my lungs had been collapsed by a vicious monster who had married my mother and beat me often as a child. He was an addict who took his pain and suffering out on my brother and mother as well. He left scars that I could never cover with tattoos, no matter how hard I tried. Reality began to set in, and I was back in the confines of my 13 by 13 foot man-made cage, realizing that 31 years had gone by. I've been incarcerated most of my life as both a juvenile and an adult, and time has started to wear on me. I may not have been in this very cell, but I have been in countless replicas where I've awakened each morning for 3 decades. Cold concrete walls that leak when it rains, a mattress worn as a folded blanket at the end of my bed. I'm getting older, undeniably. Through it all, the faint shimmer of light shines from the window at the back of my cell. That light reflects on what I hold dearest. The faces of my beautiful wife and daughters taped to my wall. Their faces, despite all that I've gone through, remind me that I'm still alive in spite of my scars. There is life outside these walls, and I will see it again. As I stood continuing to stare at my bare torso in the reflection, I thought, I've come so far.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Inching me closer to freedom. I had run from many of my scars most of my life, and in that moment, I was willing to face them. I stepped closer, lifting both my hands to my face as the tears began to fall. It was the first time in a long time that I could remember actually crying. In that moment, I felt it. I felt it deeply. The courage began to swell inside my chest. My hands covered in tears that fell effortlessly, and the voice inside spoke to me. Keith, you truly are like that of an oak. And your life is measured by the scars you have been running from for so long. You must stop and face them. Learn how to embrace them if you are ever going to reach your greatest potential, because that, Keith, is where you will heal the most. My knees lowered to the cold concrete floor as the words echoed over and over again in my mind, and I started to understand my purpose, to see through the tattoos I had hidden behind for so long. It was what every human is brought into this world for, to live, to love, and be loved, to learn and fail when necessary in order to grow, and to forgive ourselves as much as we forgive others. I sat kneeling and broken, yet I could not feel more alive or stronger than I had ever been. I wiped away the tears, stood up in my reflection, and felt it. I felt like that oak in the forest, upright and standing tall for the world to see. These scars are mine, as yours are to you. We are all like trees in the forest. We may become scarred, but growth is inevitable. Our measure will not be by what caused our afflictions, but by how we endure them, refusing to be torn down. This next one is titled Let the Voices In. I hear them reverberating off the walls of my cell. In the darkness, they dance like unrestrained shadows, and I let them in only because I cannot stand alone. You will one day find your way, the voices say. I know that you will, but there is one thing you must do. You must get out of your own way. I listen to them as I pace the cold concrete floor beneath my bare feet. The voices in the darkness begin to lead the way toward a path I had long refused to see. Knowing the truth of what the voices had spoken, I decided in that moment to let them in. What harm could it do? I whispered just loud enough for myself to hear. I am so tired of being my own worst enemy. I knew that I had failed myself long enough, and I refused to do it anymore. That night, pacing back and forth in my prison cell, admitting to the voices I had lost control of my life, gave me the chance to start over. You see, the voices had been there all along. They had never given up on me. They had waited in the corners of the darkness, waiting for me to reach for them, to embrace them. I got out of my own way that night. In the stillness of darkness, I let the voices in. This next one is titled Barbed Wire with a Concrete Soul. Life within a prison cell for 32 years, if I had to describe it to you from where I stand, would best be compared to that of an animal locked inside a cage. It can feel torturous to the human soul, hour by hour, minute by minute, until it feels the last remnants of your sanity. The illusion of time may seem as if it is going nowhere at all, yet life outside continues to pass by. Beyond this cage, everything moves, lives, and breathes, and you cannot touch it no matter how far you reach. Like memories, it all fades into yesterday, a slideshow of where you once were, reminding you painfully of the heartache you must now live with. Many of the men around me are much the same. We sit here within these walls, tangled together in one heavy ball of regret. Separately, yet together, we watch the world as nothing more than spectators in a grand scheme, where time itself causes us to age and wither into what will soon be oblivion. Like ants, we are scattered throughout the system as human cargo, standing next to one another, waiting to be shuffled from one place of confinement to another. Hope, or even the faint idea of it, seems to be the only thing that keeps our spirits alive. Today I heard it again, as I had before. A man screamed from down the tier. His cries sounded like the final declaration of someone surrendering for the last time. Hours later, he was found hanging lifeless in his cell, a braided rope of bed sheets around his neck. In that moment, I felt nothing at all. I could not afford to. My own sanity depended on holding tightly to whatever hope I still had, something I could not let slip away. But that night, beneath the covers in the dark, I cried like a child. I could not help but feel compassion for him.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Locked away in the cage. I call that.
Okay. All right, everyone, and thank you so much. Thank you for all the gifts. I do see them coming in. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone. So for those who are just joining us, I'm here with my co-host Keith Erickson. He's reading his book, Trauma Unraveled. And it's available on Amazon. The link is in my bio. I'm right here on my page.
This is Global Telly. You have a prepaid call from.
Thank you for tapping. Thank
An
you.
incarcerated individual at the Pleasant Valley State Prison, Coalinga, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Next one is titled Moving Billboards Behind the Tattoos. Going back centuries, the tradition of body markings has been used to signify many things. For men like me, they have represented something far less traditional. I am covered in ink. Tattoos cover 90% of my body. From the tops of my feet to the bottom of my throat, I have become a walking billboard of misdirection. I say this with no disdain. I say it as someone who now understands how easily we judge one person based on appearance before ever getting to know them. I, too, despite my markings, have had preconceived ideas about others before giving them a fair chance to even know me. Navigating the prison yard, I have seen every statement imaginable expressed through ink. Tattoos have represented the gang subculture, but they have also been a way for men to conceal something about themselves they would rather not face. I am 51 years old, serving a term of 248 years to life in the California Department of Corrections. I've been incarcerated since 1994. Time moves quickly here, yet each tattoo reminds me of a period in my journey that I may or may not be proud of. If you were to ask me to describe what it is like to walk a prison yard, I would tell you that it feels like walking through a city filled with moving billboards. Men zigzagging from point A to point B. Most of the time, their destinations are driven by habit, routine, so redundant they become depressing. Dark tinted sunglasses, expressionless faces, and an absence of emotion. These men are hardened. They have mastered the ability to hide who they really are. I too mastered that ability, something I am now trying hard to erase. My first tattoo at 18 was a symbol of gang identity. Boldly inscribed across my chest were the letters announcing to the rest of the prison population what I had sworn to represent. I did not understand then that this representation was forged in the blood of what would later become both the rise and the fall of Keith Erickson. I eventually walked away from the gang subculture, struggled for years to find out who I was meant to be, spent the next decade trying to forget a past that stared back at me every time I looked in the mirror. As a small boy, I suffered abuse at the hands of a violent stepfather, neglect from a mother who was just as victimized as I was, and an unrelenting need to be accepted by others. The gangs within the prison system gave me what I had lacked as a child, a sense of belonging. As twisted as those ideologies were, I followed them. I had become a poster child for violence and criminality, though in truth, I was only a boy pretending to be a man, terrified to let anyone see my secrets. Over time, I began to recognize in other men the same scars that once drove me. My ability to let go of my past has allowed me to see beyond the markings and appreciate others for who they truly are. From the outside looking in, I understand why society often sees incarcerated men as monsters who have committed unimaginable crimes. I also understand the invisible line that divides us, the line many refuse to cross in order to understand who we really are. Yet I believe we're all simply trying to find our own way from one painful place to another, searching for a middle ground where healing can begin. My tattoos are no different from yours. They have been my way of hiding, of concealing the pain within me, of holding on to something out of fear that I would have nothing at all. So how different are we, really? Although I have covered many of the tattoos that once represented an ugly part of my life, I am still covered with reminders of so many chapters that have come and gone. Some mark the loss of life, others celebration of people or moments of shape.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Each one tells a story I wanted to hold close to before it was gone. I kept these remembrances beneath my skin because they were all I had left. Sometimes I think about what it would mean for someone to remember me the same way, to carry me beneath their skin so I will never be forgotten. After all, we all want to be loved, don't we? So what are men afraid to reveal about themselves beneath the ink? From my own experience and from the men I have come to know, ex-gang members once deemed my enemies, men of different races I now embrace as brothers, I can tell you that pain does not discriminate. Look long enough and deep enough, and you will see that we are more than just moving billboards. Like you, we are not what we appear to be. The markings on our bodies tell stories just as yours do. The next essay is titled, With Each Step That I Took, the Word of Solace Would Follow. We say that we do not like pain, yet we place ourselves in harm's way. We disregard our own sense of safety, allowing our inner peace to be chipped away by our own neglect. Becoming the execution of our own demise is nothing extraordinary. Humanity has done it for centuries. Every self-imposed wound is another quiet act of suicide upon the soul. I admit that I, too, am guilty of this. I remember when I used to say I love you to others without the slightest idea of whether I had ever loved myself. I also remember looking into the eyes of another human being and feeling completely disconnected from them. I wanted so badly to know them, to trust them, to let them into my soul, but I could not. Over the years, I would hear people say, Keith, we are praying for you out here. As much as I knew deep down there was something greater than myself, a higher power, if you will, I did not have the courage to pray for myself. I resented the world around me for my own self-destruction. To allow myself to feel anything at all meant I would have to be honest and face what I had known all along. I was hurting and needed someone to blame. I reached a point in my life where I felt as if I had fallen into a dark pit of nothingness. I hated the person I had become in prison, and I was too ashamed to admit it aloud. 20 years later, while sitting in my cell, I tattooed the word solace across the tops of my feet. For me, it carried a deeper meaning. A cellmate once asked, why did you tattoo the word solace across your feet? I replied, because when I leave this world, I want everyone to know that I had already been gone long before my physical life had ever expired. How I had gone to such a dark place, I could not say. I suppose I had given up. He looked at me and said, that's a really dark thing to say, Keith. And he was right. Today, I'm not that same lost person. Eventually, I found the courage to fight again for my internal freedom and peace of mind. Every night, I pray to God, thanking Him for giving me so much. In my darkest hours, when I believed I had no soul worth saving, He reached out and lifted me from the rubble of my painful life. The tattoos have long been covered, yet I still look down on my feet to remind myself of where I once was. I believe this is proof that all men can be found again once lost. I was, and today my soul is fuller than it has ever been. This next part is part 2, and this is where we start the journey of the other men sharing their stories. What follows are the stories of men who have lived through profound trauma and are now doing the difficult work of healing. Each narrative is told in the man's voice, preserving the authenticity and power of his experience. These are not stories of excuses or justifications. They are stories of human beings confronting the wounds that shaped them, taking responsibility for the harm they have caused, and discovering that change is possible even in the most restrictive circumstances. Each man's journey is unique, yet they share common threads: childhood abuse, the search for belonging, the destructive cycle of violence, and ultimately the courageous decision to face their past and build something better. My brother's keeper, Ralph. You never know just how much a man is struggling to forgive himself. I met Ralph nearly 3 years ago after hearing what I later realized were only fragments of the story beneath this individual. Ralph's story has always had a profound impact on my heart because I too have a brother. I've anticipated this sit down with him for weeks. I also expect that we will share moments in this room where vulnerability will be necessary on my part as much as his. I cannot compare my pain to any other man's, especially Ralph's, but I can tell you that when I look into his eyes, I see a deep sense of conviction that screams for forgiveness. I hope that he finds what he deserves in life, because no one should be deprived of forgiveness, especially when they have the power to give it to themselves. We live, we love, we give, we take, and along the way we make mistakes that we cannot take back. Ralph battles with this every day, despite how hard he tries to conceal it. My wife and I have had him in our prayer book for quite some time now. Ralph's story. I'm 37 years old and I've been incarcerated for 5 years on a conviction of involuntary manslaughter. Since my arrest, I have carried with me a tremendous amount of shame, guilt, and regret. I took the life of someone very close to me, someone who looked up to me, and someone I was supposed to protect. I now must live with that pain and trauma for the rest of my life. Every day that I wake up in prison, I struggle with the reality that it's far more painful than simply doing the time. Richie was my little brother, and I took his life while under the influence of methamphetamines during a heated argument outside my home. He is gone, and that reality is heavier than anyone can imagine. Today I search for answers to how I...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Today I search for answers to how I ever reached a point in my life where I felt to keep Richie safe. Growing up, I had 5 other siblings, 4 brothers, and 1 stepsister, Monica, who was the oldest. We grew up together in Bakersfield, California, and got along well enough. Despite early displacement, having to live with my grandmother while my father served time in prison, being together as siblings meant everything to me. That is not to say that things were perfect, far from it. Our childhood was full of dysfunction from the start. Living with my grandmother had its ups and downs. Many other relatives lived there, and the house was crowded. All of us boys shared one room, while the adults crammed into the others. Today, I tell people we have lived like most Mexican families, packed into one house. Shortly after I was born, my father was sent to prison for 15 years. While he was incarcerated, I had no relationship with him. In every sense of the word, he was a stranger I occasionally spoke to on the phone or heard adults gossiping about. He was a gang member, something I had learned as I got older, and he had a long history of drug use and crime. The first time I saw my father's addiction was during a car ride with my mother and aunt as we drove across town to score drugs for him. I had no idea where we were going, only that I had to wait in the car while my aunt went inside. I saw someone peek through the curtains as she knocked on the door. I asked my mom, "Who lives here?" And she said, "It's just a friend of your aunt's that has some money for her." On the way home, we kept looking at something in a small plastic wrapper. I knew it was not money. Later that night, my father overdosed and was taken away in an ambulance. He lived, but that night I began to understand addiction. After that, my parents made no effort to hide their drug use. My father would get drunk or high and start treating my mother terribly. When I asked her why he was like that, she said it was because his father treated him the same way. It seemed like every adult around us had the same explanation. I hated to see my father upset, so I avoided making him angry, even if it meant staying away. Later, I realized he had brought home the same attitudes and habits he had learned in prison. He was the man of the house and handled most of the disciplining, while my mother was permissive. When we finally moved out of my grandmother's house into our own apartment, things only got worse. I loved my siblings deeply, but Richie, my youngest brother, was the one I was closest to. Richie looked up to me, wanted to be like me, and made me feel like I mattered because he admired me so much. We did everything together, swimming, playing in the park, just being kids. The gang's culture around us, both within and beyond our family, but at that age, we were not impressed by it. We were drawn to sports and wanted to do something better. Unfortunately, what happened inside our home would influence us more than we could imagine. When I started 9th grade, I dreamed of becoming a professional athlete. Football was my passion, and Richie followed in my footsteps. But I struggled academically, and when I was held back a grade and placed in special education, it crushed me. My self-esteem fell apart, and I gave up on school. Richie followed my lead. My parents never encouraged education. Simply showing up for school was good enough for them. They never asked about our grades. Later, I learned they were both high school dropouts. Would it have even mattered if they weren't? I don't know. I started dressing like the other kids who hung around gangs. Baggy blue jeans, blue shirts, Nike Cortez shoes. Fitting in mattered. Looking the part mattered. I changed the way I talked, walked, and treated people outside my circle. The first time I dealt with a bully using violence, I felt pride instead of fear. When I beat him,
You have 60 seconds remaining.
cheering me on. That day, I learned that violence was acceptable, even rewarded. By 18, I had dropped out of school and joined a gang. Being jumped in felt like an initiation into belonging. I walked away from that beating feeling proud. I finally had an identity. Not long after, I was arrested for a home invasion robbery and sentenced to 3 years in prison. Gang members told me I should be proud to be joining the big homies. I believed them. While I was incarcerated, I learned that Richie had followed in my footsteps, becoming a gang member himself. I had failed him.
Okay, he'll call back. Thank you for joining everyone who's just coming in. I'm here tonight with Keith Erickson, my co-host. He's reading his book, Trauma Unraveled. Here's the book. It's available on my page. You could go to Amazon. There's the link in my bio. One second.
This is Global Tel Link. You have a prepaid call from
Keith Erickson.
an incarcerated individual at the Pleasant Valley State Prison, Coalinga, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for the... Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
When I was released, I tried to change. I married a woman who shared my background, and we lived fast. Drugs, parties, and chaos. Eventually, she gave me an ultimatum. It's either the gang or me and the kids. That night, I chose my family. I walked away from the gang, gave my life to God, and began learning how to be a husband and father. 6 months later, I was home again, but Richie looked at me differently. He was ashamed of me for walking away from the gang. The shame in his eyes broke me. When Richie's addiction worsened, he became alienated from everyone except me. I never turned my back on him. Then came the night that changed everything. I had been awake for 3 days, having relapsed and started using meth. My mind was breaking. I accused my wife of cheating, threw her clothes outside, and started screaming. My kids hid in their room. Richie came to calm me down, but I pushed him away. He refused to leave. We argued, pushed, and shoved until I pulled out a knife and stabbed him. Everything happened so fast. Richie stumbled away, looked at me, and said, "I hate you. You're not my brother." Moments later, I found him lying on the street, fading in a stranger's arms. I lifted him, begged him to stop playing. He whispered that it hurt. Then he was gone. When the police arrived, I went numb. I was later told Richie was on life support, but I knew he was gone. My mother screamed at me in the hospital hallway. "What did you do, Ralph? Why?" I ran. I could not bear the sight of my family's faces. Later, I was arrested for my brother's murder. Seeing my wife and children crying as I was taken away broke something in me that may never heal. I was sentenced to more than 20 years for manslaughter, but no prison sentence could ever match the punishment of living with what I had done. There were moments I wanted to take my own life, but I could not. It has been 4.5 years since Richie's death. The pain is not eased. I think about him every day. I know I must honor him by becoming a better human being. That is my purpose now. Recently, I participated in a Power of Forgiveness workshop. When asked who I needed to forgive most in order to move forward, I wrote a letter and said myself. Later, I stood before the group and told Richie's story. I cried as I finally began to forgive myself. When they asked me to leave the room and return, there was a sheet-covered figure lying as if in a casket. They told me to speak to him. I froze, then spoke to my brother one last time. That night, I sat down and wrote him a letter. "Dear Brother Richie, I want you to know how deeply I love and miss you. There are no words to describe the depth of my love, but I will try. Every day I think of you, our childhood, of everything we shared. I thank God for giving me the gift of having you as my brother. You were the best friend I ever had. Losing you to my negligence and poor choices is something I still struggle to forgive myself for. I know I failed you, and I am so sorry. I fight every day to keep you alive in my heart. I promise I will never let you down again by letting your death be in vain. I pray for you every night. I hope you can hear me, brother. You and I were once two broken, lost souls. Now I make it our mission to help others so they do not end up as we did. I want the world to know who Richie was and how easy it is to lose sight of what truly matters. I love you, Richie. I will see you again one day. Until then, I will live a life that makes you proud. Love, Ralph." Keith's reflection. I can never imagine carrying the weight of conviction in my heart the way Ralph does each day. I cannot imagine smiling when the world feels empty without my brother. And I cannot imagine standing before others and admitting that I took my brother's life in a moment of drug-induced rage. But I can't imagine finding the strength to love myself the way men like Ralph should have been taught to his boys. We, men like us, are learning to forgive ourselves for what we have done. Serving life in prison will never compare to the loss Ralph felt the night he held his brother in his arms and watched his life slip away. This next submission is like father, like son. This is Joseph. Along the way of personal growth, you find yourself rooting for certain people. Joseph is one of those young men. I remember the first time we met in the self-help group I had been facilitating for a couple of years. I listened to what he was willing to share, and I wanted to know more. He lacked confidence in being anything other than who he had been, and I could see the struggle in him to let go of his past. Men walk away from the gang subculture, drugs, and alcohol every day in here. The hardest battle is learning how to reach for what lies ahead so you can truly walk away from what you have known for so long. I knew Joseph had been fighting addiction and trying to let go of old homies on the yard who pulled him back. On a prison yard, everyone knows everyone's business. He did not quit. I am grateful I got to witness his turning point. His story had me on the sidelines, urging him towards the finish line. I believe he will get there because he has a heart that refuses to give up. Today we walked the track together. I had heard much of his story before, yet I felt his eagerness to share everything he could for me and for those who will one day be moved by what he has lived. I listened as we navigated the blacktop, moving through the flow of men circling the yard like a slow freeway. Joseph's story.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I grew up in the San Fernando Valley in Southern California. I'm 29 years old, but I feel older, like I had to grow up faster than most guys my age. As a boy, my father was absent and incarcerated. He was a gang member, sold drugs, and lived recklessly. My mother raised me and my siblings and took me for weekend visits like many women do. I looked forward to seeing him at the prison, but he treated me more like a little buddy than a son. When he finally came home, everything in our house changed. It started with yelling and screaming. They would get drunk and things would seem fine until one of them said or did something the other did not like. After my older sister was born, the violence between my parents escalated. The drinking led to drugs. People came and went from our home at all hours. My mother began smoking the crack cocaine that my father sold, and everything exploded. She called the cops and pressed charges for domestic violence. She was pregnant again and still using. I began to resent my mother for how she lived. My father went back to prison, and I was left with a mother enslaved by addiction. Things fell apart quickly, and Child Protective Services took me. Foster care was a scary place for a 7-year-old boy. I do not remember everything, but I remember wandering at night looking for my mother in the neighborhood where I had been placed. My aunt eventually came for me and my 2 siblings. We moved in with her after years of running away from placement homes. Things were okay at first, but I did not fit in like my younger brother and sister. I resisted my aunt, even though she was trying to love us and give us a better life. I regret that now. The only times I saw my parents then, even after my father was released, were in family court. They cried across the aisle while we sat with our aunt. It was a hard time. I rebelled even more. My aunt could not control me. I did poorly in school, got into fights, and pushed her to their limit. One day I came home to find a social worker sitting with her. I thought it meant we were going back to our parents. It was the opposite. My aunt said she could not keep me anymore. She would keep my brother and sister, but I had to leave. I cursed at her through tears and left with the social worker for another placement. Eventually, my parents got visitation. My father picked me up one day alone, took me to his old hangouts, and spent the day selling drugs in the yard while I played with neighboring kids. He went back to prison soon after. While he was gone, my mother met a man named Bo. He knew the gang life, but had left it. In many ways, he was what she needed. In other ways, her pain made a future with him hard. Bo helped my mother get her life together. We moved back home to live with him. He treated us like his own, and I looked up to him for everything my father could not be. My mother and Bo had a child, my little brother Anthony, or baby Bo. For the first time, things felt stable. It did not last. When my father got out again, my mother started sneaking off the scene. She took us kids twice a week. He was back to selling drugs. My mother left Bo and went back to my father. Anthony did not come with us. I think she wanted to love Bo, but her history with my father was too strong. We moved into my father's place as if nothing had happened. Gang members came and went. Drug deals happened in front of us. I saw a gun on the coffee table while we watched television. I missed Bo, the man who looked like my father, but had his life together. My mother left Anthony behind us.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Though now I believe it was the best thing for him. Bo showed up one evening with papers to get full rights over Anthony. It was the first time I saw my father shoot at someone. He chased Bo into the street and tried to kill him. My mother took the gun, wiped it down with a dish towel, and hid it. I never understood how she turned on Bo so fast. In the years that followed, I copied my father. I sold drugs, committed crimes with gang members, and treated women the way he treated my mother. The first time I fought in front of him, he urged me to beat the other kid. When I stood there bloody and crying, he told me he was proud. I was not a sissy. I thought I had learned his respect. We became a family of criminals and gang members. I did not plan to become that. I just followed what I saw. Arrest, juvenile hall, release, repeat. My father's last prison term came when I was 16. I had already been arrested for drugs, guns, and school fights. My mother would take me to see him and say, "Look at how he's acting. He's just like you." My father told me to stop getting caught or I would end up in prison with him. I still admired him. Then some of his homies came and said my father was no longer part of the neighborhood gang. He had denounced in prison and requested protective custody. There was a contract out on his life. His ex-homies came to our house and acted like he never existed. If they mentioned him, it was negative. I stopped taking his calls. In my eyes, he was dead. When the older homies suggested I should be the one to smoke my father if I got the chance, I accepted without hesitation. He had taught me to honor the code, and I thought I was doing exactly that. After he was released, I ran into him at my mother's apartment complex. We locked eyes. I grabbed a gun under my driver's seat and fired at his car as he sped off. I felt only sadness and shame. I was willing to take the life of the man who gave me life, and for what? Because I believed in the same lie he finally rejected. I wish I had learned my lesson that day, but I did not. It took more pain and more loss. My life became a cycle of addiction, domestic abuse, crime, and prison. My siblings grew up without me. My mother lost a son to the same lifestyle that once took her children's father. At 26, while traveling outside Los Angeles, I overdosed and flatlined in front of a taco truck. I woke up in a hospital to an EMT saying, "People are dying of COVID, and you are taken to bed because you chose to get high." I should have been home with my newborn daughter. Instead, I was getting high and causing harm. 10 years ago, everything stopped when I was arrested for a long list of crimes. In county jail, I knew I'd face a long sentence, maybe life. I wanted to be different, but I did not know how. Letting go of the old life felt impossible. I hid the conflict inside me. My father, the man I rejected when he left the gang, sent me commissary money every month. He stayed in contact with my children while I was in prison. I felt guilty for taking his help. For years, I followed prison codes, even though I felt like a fraud. Because I shared my father's name, men judged me for what he had done. Eventually, I decided I would no longer represent something that filled me with shame. I turned my back on the gangs. It was the start of a new life, but it was not easy. I had inherited his way of living. I lacked basic life skills and could not value ordinary things because I never had the guidance. Self-help groups and honest conversations with other men began to change me. We made sense of each other's trauma by sharing and trusting. A few months ago, I volunteered for a forgiveness program. I struggled to forgive myself and others my whole life. I cried as I stood in front of the men who had become brothers. They placed their hands on my shoulders as I spoke to my father in his absence. I told him I was sorry for choosing gangs over him and for trying to take his life. Saying it out loud felt liberating. That night, I sat in my cell, disgusted with myself because I had to acknowledge what I had done. My father never stopped loving me, and I pushed him away out of shame. Those others who once mattered to me mean nothing now. I could not sleep. He was heavy on my mind. I want his forgiveness, but I still struggle to act.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I hope one day he will trust me and let me back in. Till then, I am learning who I want to be. I still struggle, but I accept the struggling as part of change. I'm willing to struggle if it makes me stronger. I'll call back.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I see, Kara. Thank you. For everyone who's just joining, I'm joined with my co-host, Keith Erickson. He's reading his book, Trauma Unraveled. It's available on Amazon, and the link is in my bio. Hey, Lady Jane. Thank you, everyone, for joining. What an amazing book. And a lot of the men that are in this book have been on the show with us. I am tagging it when he reads their story.
An incarcerated individual at the Pleasant Valley State Prison,
1 second, I just gotta
Coalinga,
get
California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
This past week, I was asked 3 questions. Who was I? Who am I? And who do I want to be? I was told to pick one. I told the group there's one word for who I am today: lost. I saw their faces, but I had to be honest. I need help more. I need help more than ever, and I know that it will be there. The old me would have pretended everything was fine. I would have to put on the mask I used 100 times to cover the pain inside. That is not who I want to be anymore. Trauma makes us suffer when we stay silent. I'm struggling to let go of my past. And if I do not let others help me, I fear I will fall back into old behaviors. The new me is unafraid, and I am learning to live with that. Keith's reflection. Joseph's struggle is what growth looks like. We do not change the course of our lives overnight. I have invested in Joseph because I believe he will find the strength to accept his past in a way that makes his future possible. If my life means anything, it will mean the most when it helps other men believe that change is not impossible, if you are willing to push through the hard parts. When Joseph told me he felt lost, I told him that being lost is a step between leaving the old life and entering the next. When he arrives, he will see it was well worth it. This next story is a lifestyle born into, and this is manual. To hear the quiet without footsteps, chatter, crashing gates, or buzzing alarms, the prison chapel is where most men go to escape the day-to-day life of prison. As I sit awaiting my interview with Manuel, a 36-year-old Hispanic and Native American man I've been fortunate enough to know on a personal level, I noticed the simple beauty of this room. My thoughts wandered to the countless times I have sat here during church services, self-help groups, and workshops, listening to life stories I might have never known, stories of men in desperate need of healing just like me. On the yard, men are taught to conceal their vulnerabilities so others cannot use them. This place, this room where souls come and go seek refuge from turmoil, continues to comfort men of every faith and background by simply being here. I lean back, stare up at the ceiling with my eyes half closed, and just then Manuel walks in and gives me with a hug. I'm honored to be here, given the chance to know more about his life. Manuel's story. I grew up in the urban area of Tulare, California. My parents were both born and raised there and had been gang members for as long as I can remember. I had 5 siblings at home, and our life was dysfunctional from the day I came home from the hospital. Drugs and alcohol were part of my parents' lives. Verbal and physical abuse were normal in their relationship, and we had no rules about how to behave. What we did know was that we were not expected to become anything different from our parents. They had no ambition, so we mirrored what we saw. Looking back, I thought our family was like everyone else's in the neighborhood. Where we lived, people did not have the fairy tale lives we saw on television. None of my friends had positive role models. My own role models were aunts, uncles, and older cousins who were criminals and gang members. I copied the way my uncles dressed and moved. In time, I did what I saw them do, smoking, drinking, using drugs, and committing petty crimes. When I got caught, the adults praised me and taught me how to not get caught the next time. I believed I was not hurting anyone. My goal became to please the adults in my life by staying under the radar. Violence was normal in our house. My stepfather beat my mom and beat all of his kids. Their toxic relationship made my mother bitter toward everyone. Drunk, she would say things like, "You are worthless and you are no good." She showed me very little affection, so I looked for it elsewhere. The streets became my family. With the other gang members and juvenile delinquents, I felt accepted and wanted. I had a speech impediment that made school hard. Other kids made fun of the way I talked, and I felt insecure. I hated my stutter, so I stayed quiet in class. When kids mocked me, I fought. After being bullied, I learned to use aggression to keep others from targeting me. Violence has been in my life since I was a child. It influenced me as an adult to hurt others because of the trauma I carried. When I was 12, a female family friend who had been around since I was a baby molested me. I hid it from my parents because I was ashamed and confused. I felt dirty and stayed silent. Later, I struggled in intimate relationships. I wanted something healthy, but I knew I needed self-care and healing before I could trust a partner. The day I nearly took another person's life, I was just a boy who needed to grow up. I was 18 with one prior juvenile arrest for stealing a car. My life revolved around my gang and my crime. I was at a park with my girlfriend and her children. 3 men were drinking near the play area. They were from a rival gang. I thought being there with my family meant we would respect each other's space. They did not care. They got belligerent, threw bottles near the play area, and I tried to leave with my girlfriend and the kids. A fight started between me and one of them. Eventually, they ran down the street. I told my girlfriend to take the kids home, then I went looking for them. I had carried a gun since I was 15. I felt powerful knowing I could pull it at any moment. I drove through the neighborhood and found one of the men. I intended to confront him about the park. I walked toward him and pulled the gun from my waistband and fired 5 times. It happened fast. In those 3 seconds, I did more than merely take the life of someone like me. I terrified his family and my own. I spread fear in the community where families should feel safe to step outside. The impact of what I did is long-lasting. It does not disappear just because I've changed my life in here and say I'm sorry. For years, I justified my actions. I told myself I was with my family, I was disrespected, I did what anyone would do. The truth is, my lifestyle and my identity made me think that way. A rational person does not think like that. I refuse to see the life-changing consequences for others and for me. I lost more than my freedom. Soon after, my girlfriend from the park was shot and killed in a gang-related drive-by shooting. I often wonder who her children became. After my conviction, I came to prison intending to make a name for myself. I represented my gang, did whatever it took to earn praise, and got sent to a level 4 maximum security prison where violence spread like cockroaches. Gangs ran everything. Crime was the underbelly. It felt familiar. I thought my childhood prepared me for it. I never met.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I needed to survive. Even the hardest men grow tired. 11 years ago, after leaving the gangs, I tried the programs offered to us: anger management, alternatives to violence, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and more. The more I showed up, the more I saw that my life was not over because I was in prison. I had a life sentence, but it did not have to mean life. I watched lifers do the work and walk out. I wanted that. I swore nothing would stop me from earning my freedom. The first time I understood how my childhood trauma shaped me was in parenting workshop. I thought it would teach me how to be a good parent. Instead, it focused on how my parents raised me and what harmed me. I felt uncomfortable, but I knew honesty was the only way to heal. I opened up. That day felt like the beginning. If you ask what I learned from my early trauma, I will tell you it changed how I saw myself. I did not believe in me. I did not think others believed in me. And when they said they did, I had no confidence that I could ever be successful. Whatever value I might have had was taken away from me by my parents before I knew the difference. I also learned that trauma is like a pyramid. If you never address the events that hurt you, each new event stacks on top of the last. The pile grows and the pain spills onto the others. Admitting you were a victim is not easy, especially when you're young. You do not want that label. You do not want that look from people, so you seek relief. Drugs, alcohol, gangs, a place to belong. The best way to start healing is to talk about it with someone. Speaking it is more powerful and freeing than balling up and pretending you are strong without another person's comfort and compassion. Look at where I am today because I faced my past. Keith's reflection. After our interview, I sat and thought about the success I've seen in Manuel. I say success because what he thought he would never accomplish, he clearly has. Despite everything he has endured, he has found internal freedom. It is a foretaste of what is to come. I was not raised by gang members, but I do know how misdirection from the very people who should protect you can set you up to fail from the start. It saddens me that Manuel was taught to hate those who are also lost and to believe he had to hurt the world before it could hurt him. His chaplains witnessed countless stories of men searching for refuge from trauma and pain, men who finally want to surrender to what turned them into people they no longer recognize. I am tied to this room because of my own discoveries and the comfort I have found here. I do not think I will ever forget its power even when I leave this prison. I wipe away a tear from my face and gather my things. Sitting here alone after speaking with Manuel, who headed back to work, I feel another sense of purpose. I am here to love these men the way I hope to be loved too. This next story is to practice forgiveness. This young man's name is James. I met James while attending a parenting workshop during my first year at what was then a new prison for me. I had begun signing up for just about everything I could get my hands on regarding self-discovery and rehabilitation. The workshop allowed us men in attendance to talk about our upbringings, and James stood out the moment he shared his stories. He admitted he was still carrying mommy issues that made his life hard to deal with. I could relate more than he knew. After hearing what I too had to share with the group about my childhood, he acknowledged with numerous nods that my words resonated with him. James approached me on the yard days later, asked me to help him get into additional activities that would help him make sense of his childhood, and told me he felt I had a powerful story. I thanked him and said, we all have powerful stories when we make the decision to own them and not let them hold us back from hurting anymore. Little did I know that as we spent more time together on the yard and numerous self-help groups over the coming months, he would ask me to be his sponsor and mentor. I was honored. This morning we stood out in the field as the clouds threatened us with rain, yet we both had positive attitudes that could not be washed away, no matter how dark the sky seemed. We were two souls that had healed much since we first met in that prison classroom. James's story. For nearly 40 years, I felt like I was coasting through life lost, hurt, and angry at the world. I made poor choices as an adolescent and carried that same attitude into adulthood, where those poor choices came with greater consequences and ultimately landed me in a prison cell. I asked Keith if I could share my story here today. He encouraged me, saying it needed to be heard because so many men and women have walked in the very shoes of people like us. He reminded me that if my story could save the life of another human being who might learn from what I went wrong, then I have done my part in being part of the solution instead of the problem. I remember the abuse in our home from early on in my childhood. As a result of my biological parents divorcing during my infancy, my mother found another man with whom she had another child. My stepfather, Brett, abused my brother and me and would eventually do the same to the daughter he had with my mother. He would yell at everyone in the house, punch holes in the walls, and threaten to beat the crap out of us if we said anything to anyone. I started to believe early on that he had hated us and would rather not have us around at all. One day, Brett told us we were all confined to our bedrooms until he said we could come out, even to go to the bathroom down the hallway. After spending all day in our bedroom, we were hungry and wanted to...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And wanted to ask if we could get something to eat. I walked out into the living room and saw my mother having sex with Brett on the couch. That night, after being yelled at by both of them to get back in my room, Brett came in and beat me with a belt for coming out. My mother did little to nothing to stop this man, who is not my father, from beating his kids. I began to feel the same about my mother as I did about Brett. If she did not want us around, why were we even born? I was just a boy and knew nothing about what it really meant to hate another person. But in hindsight, the things being done to me were watering the seeds of strong emotions that resent.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
That cut out really quick. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I appreciate you. So we are reading Trauma Unraveled with Keith Erickson, my co-host. And the book is available on Amazon. The link is in my bio, in my link tree. How's everyone doing tonight? Jamie, it's so good to have your mom here. Hi, Mom.
This is Global Link. You have a prepaid call from
Keith Erickson.
Absolutely, Kara.
an incarcerated individual at the Pleasant Valley State Prison, Coalinga, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Link.
I remember the times Brett would make me pack my bags while my mother sat on the couch. He would drive me out to the country in his truck and drop me off, telling me as he drove away that I no longer had a home to go back to. I cried for what felt like hours in the middle of nowhere until he returned. This did not happen just once. Finally, I remember wishing he would just leave me and never come back. Both of my parents were using drugs in our home, which I now understand played a big part in their behaviors toward us children. Nonetheless, this was no excuse for the trauma that caused us for years to follow. Things would just get worse, and my mother became just as ugly a human being as Brett had become. I remember leaving our house and having to sleep on the floor in other people's homes. Most of these people were perfect strangers to me, but I still remember being afraid and holding my little brother and sister as we slept in the same sleeping bag. The good thing about it, looking back now that I am older, was that they were still too young to know what was really going on. I felt relieved when Child Protective Services finally removed us from my mother and Brett. But I also remember seeing other children in foster home who were not foster kids, and it hurt to see what a healthy relationship between parents and their children really looked like. My mother would visit us, and I resented her more each time she came. I was 14 when she finally came back for us, having done everything legally required to regain custody. Going back to my mother was different because Brett was no longer in the picture. For a while, it felt like we were a family again and that my mother was actually able to love and care for us without an abusive man in her life. But my mother was who she was, with or without a man like Brett, and things got worse. I started using drugs with my mother between the ages of 14 and 16. I do not remember how it started, but we were snorting methamphetamines together behind closed doors in our apartment while my brother and sister were in their bedroom. One day, my mother came home and started packing her things. She explained that I had to go live with one of my friends for a while and that she would come back for me when she could. She said she was taking my little brother and sister with her, but I had to take care of myself because I was old enough. I pleaded with her to take me, promising I would be good, get a job, or do whatever I had to do. She just got agitated and kept telling me she would come back for me when she could. I stayed in the apartment with no food and no electricity for weeks before an eviction notice was finally posted on our door. My mother left little behind other than the tattered couches in every living room and stained mattresses in the bedrooms. Eventually, I put as much as I could, most clothes, into my backpack and went out into the streets, not knowing what I was going to do or where I was going. I had not heard from my mother since she left me behind. It did not take long for the cops to find me living on the streets. Child Protective Services placed me back into the foster care system. When they asked where my parents were, I told them the truth. specifically how it made me feel. My mother had abandoned me and taken my siblings to live somewhere else, and I believe she did not love or care enough to take me with them. The foster family meant well by taking me into their home, but in the back of my mind, the fact that they had real kids and I was not one of them left me feeling unequal in every way. I was placed in public school where I struggled tremendously. I developed the habit of getting into fights as a way to do more than just get attention. I was made fun of and picked on because everyone knew I was a foster kid. I often heard that my real parents didn't love me enough, so they abandoned me. I finally graduated high school right before I turned 18. Looking back, I think I focused so much on my grades during my senior year because I was afraid of dropping out and proving everyone right. I felt I was just a screw-up. Once I turned 18, I was back on the streets and needed to do something with my life. I enrolled in the California Job Corps to train as an electrician, something I had dreamed of growing up. It changed the direction of my life. By age 19, I was working as an electrician at the love of my life, and by 24, we had our first 2 daughters together. I like to think the first few years with my wife were like every other couple's, with normal ups and downs, but the truth is, I knew nothing about a healthy relationship or what it meant to communicate. I used my childhood insecurities to justify my behavioral patterns as an adult, and before long, these insecurities turned into acts of domestic violence toward the mother of my children. I swore to love her and treat her with honor, yet I broke every vow I had sworn to uphold. Being a father and a husband was not easy for me, given my background, and I started to bury myself in work and alcohol. This was my escape, my cop-out from my responsibilities I knew I was failing at. But my wife never gave up on me, even as things got worse. In fact, she fought harder to love me and begged me to stop and let go of my past pain. I tried at times, but alcohol and eventually drugs returned to my life, causing me to push her further away. I wanted to be free of the emotional trauma, so I numbed myself as much as I possibly could well into my 30s. How she continued to stay with me, the more I treated her badly, is beyond me. But she did it for the sake of our daughters and our son, Noah, who was born when I turned 29. His name symbolized a new beginning for us, but it was anything but that. I went back to my old ways soon after he was born, and my wife finally gave up on me and the abuse she had endured for so long. I'm ashamed to admit this, but the abuse was not limited to the verbal and emotional abuse of our early marriage. We yelled, screamed, and cursed at each other until things got even worse during my drunken stupors. I would black out, punch windows and walls, and eventually I began to physically harm the woman I once swore was the love of my life. I am deeply ashamed of the man that I allowed myself to become with her. When she left, I was at my worst. She went back to her parents' home, leaving the kids with me. I never understood how she could just up and leave all of us, but she later said it was because she knew I wouldn't come after her if she left the kids behind. She was right. I began to drink even heavier than before. I lost my job, started using drugs heavily again, and harassed her by calling her, showing up at her parents' house. Eventually, she called the cops, and I was arrested for misdemeanor abuse. A year later, we were divorced and sharing custody of our 3 children until she took full custody back. I lacked the ability to provide for them, and honestly, I should never have been left to fend for them given the lifestyle I was living. Once again, I found myself on the streets. This time, however, I was a 30-something-year-old man addicted to methamphetamine in a downward spiral that would consume me rapidly. I would spend the next 5 years in and out of jail in relationships with women that treated no differently than my wife, and my addiction to meth did not slow down. Unfortunately, my dependency on drugs and alcohol became so controlling that I could not or would not get out of bed unless I had them. My relationship with my children and their mother suffered the most. And it happened. My life came crashing down. My addiction spiraled further out of control. I was arrested, tried, and convicted for domestic violence against the mother of my children. That day, despite coming to prison and losing everything, I was actually rescued from myself. I would have eventually killed myself. Or worse.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Addiction to drugs and alcohol was a large part of my life for a very long time. It had a stranglehold on me all the way back to my earliest childhood years. But after getting sober, I realized that getting high was secondary to what was really causing me to live that way. I never imagined I would be sitting in a prison cell having hurt people who loved me and never wanted to see me suffer, but I am here. Every day I am more determined to right my wrongs. It has not been easy from the start, but making the effort has given me the courage to understand it is possible. My biggest hurdle, I admit, is letting go of the hurt my mother caused me. Someone once told me, difficult roads lead to the most beautiful places. I hope this is true. Peace reflection. I know firsthand the struggles and effects of addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or criminality and games. These are often just reactions to an underlying issue. Like James, many of us develop a void early on, an absence where nothing can save us from our own self-destructive selves. No matter how much we want to be rescued from the trauma and the broken parts of who we have become, we often do more harm than good trying to fill that void. I left the yard where James and I had become good friends before the completion of this book. But before I left, I sat with him one last time. I told him that forgiveness is probably the hardest road he will ever have to cross, but a road he must cross nonetheless. Forgiveness for his mother, I explained, is not saying that what she did to him as a child is okay. What it is, I told him, is taking back the power from years of pain so it can no longer hold him back. I hugged James and thanked him for allowing me to mentor him during the years we were housed on the same yard. I believe he will eventually come to see the power in forgiveness, even for himself. This next one is From Love to Trauma, and this young man's name is Trevor. I've always found Trevor to be a free spirit. When I met him in a pure...
It did cut out. There we go. Hi, Ruth.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I told him it would be powerful to do so, and it was. When I read his story, my heart felt as if it had been kicked. Even with my own childhood traumas, you still find yourself relating to another person's suffering when their life is relevant to you the way he reveals it here. It is like watching a film unfold from one tragic event to another, and you cannot help but root for a hopeful ending. Trevor almost always has a smile on his face when I see him walk in the yard. It warms me to see that he refuses to let his past define where he wants to go. Weeks ago, I saw him playing keyboard in church. Music is a place of solace for him. I feel a genuine, sincere connection to this young man. Trevor's story. How old were you when you learned what love is? I was about 6. My grandmother gave me a dog, and that is how I learned to cherish that small emotion inside me. I began to notice how different my life was when I started school. Jeffrey and Alex's parents dropped him off and picked him up. Dalton's mom packed his lunch. To me, all of that was strange. This was kindergarten, my first look at what life could look like for a child my age. Those parents cared. They were happy to see their kids at the end of the day. Their kids were not invisible to adults. That was foreign. Why did they deserve so much love and I did not? My earliest memories of my parents are 3 things. 1, being too high to function. 2, preparing to get high. And 3, doing whatever they had to do to score dope and get high. I remember calling into a room and seeing them slumped on the couch. Many times they left me in the car while they went into strange houses to steal. Electronics, jewelry, even children's bicycles. Whatever helped them score a fix, they took. The first time I learned to ride a bike, it was on a stolen bike. The first time my father was arrested was was after a home invasion. I was left in the car across from the house in a food-for-less parking lot. They left me with the car radio to keep me distracted. I grew to love music for its power to take me places, yet I also developed anxiety tied to music in parked cars or out on the yard. Sitting and waiting gave me an acute awareness of time. I always needed to know the time of the day because everyone else's time belonged to them. That night in the parking lot, I saw my parents run to the car as the police surrounded them. Because there was a toddler in the car, they arrested my father but let my mother go. We drove away without him, and I did not see him for 2 nights.
Oh no, we lost you. Oh,
You have 60 seconds remaining.
he'll call back. So thank you everyone for joining. Keith, my co-host, is reading his book, Trauma Unraveled. It's available on Amazon. You can get it there. The link is in my link tree in my bio. Hopefully the phone straightens out. He'll be calling us right back. Hey, Ruth. Oh, I hope this phone straightens out. I really do. Hey, Nanny.
This is Global Telly.
Keith is
You
reading
have a
his
prepaid
book
call
tonight.
Keith Erickson.
An incarcerated
How are you,
individual
friend?
at the Pleasant Valley State Prison, Coalinga, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Thank
have
you
a
for
prepaid
joining,
call.
everyone.
You will
I
not be
appreciate
charged
you.
for this call. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Can you hear me?
I could hear you now. You were cutting out towards the end. It went out.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The cycle lasted for years. My father took the goods to a man who paid cash, and he and my mother went to the pink house known as the dope spot. In the back seat, I watched them mix heroin in a spoon and take turns shooting up. They nodded out for hours with music in my ears, then woke up to do it again. When we finally went home, my mother drank vodka and chain smoked until she passed out. The second time my father went to prison, we were in a high-speed chase. I stared out the back window at the police cars and wondered if we would be on the news. When we were caught and he was taken away in cuffs, my mother and I moved in with my grandparents. My grandfather hated my mother and turned that hatred towards me. He was also racist. I was the Mexican bastard boy dropped into his family. He made sure I knew it. My grandmother was kind, but after raising 7 children with my mother as the youngest, and me as the youngest grandchild, she was tired. As I grew older, I saw my mother for what she was, a bird who wanted freedom from anything that held her down. Having me so young was her curse. I was the anchor. I do not remember her holding me or telling me she loved me. When my father went back to prison the second time, she spiraled. Without him, she sold her body, she turned tricks at all hours. One night, while she got high in the next room, a stranger molested me in the dark. For years, I believe she knew and even sold me for drugs.
One second. Keith, it went out. I can't hear you. I don't know if you could hear me.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And we are live. This kind of stuff does happen. They do have problems with the tablets here and there. We're just not, we don't have a connection right now. So Keith can hear me, but we can't hear him. And we'll see if it reconnects. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lisa. And sometimes this happens when it gets late. I don't know, but he did have issues earlier, but it's been good so far. They do sometimes, Crystal, yeah. Thank you, Crystal. Yeah, Keith, if you can hear me, we can't hear anything. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Amazing that everyone's here tonight. I really appreciate you. This book is amazing. I absolutely love it. So everyone, it's available on Amazon. The link is in my link tree on my page. You could just go right on in my bio, go to my link tree, and hit right there, and it'll take you right to the book. You could purchase it right there. Unfortunately, yeah, if everyone could still tap, look at that. Everyone's doing amazing with that. Oh, it disconnected. We'll see if he calls back. Jamie, are you still here? Wonderful. I know, isn't it? He's amazing. Yeah, Jamie, it went out again. We can't, like, I know he could hear me sometimes, and I know he said you had some trouble when you were talking to him. I think he heard me, but I couldn't hear him, and now it just went completely out. We'll see what happens. I had this trouble the other night with Manny. You did too? Yeah. We got like halfway through. We're like page 56. I just want to go to the app and make sure. Oh, wait, it's on this other phone, the app. I got to make sure he doesn't send me anything. Such a good book, Jamie. So everyone get your copy. I know Kara got her copy already. I don't know who else got theirs in, but last night it happened to, oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, Crystal, and it's like right, like I said, it is on Amazon. You could go, I could send you the link personally, or you could just go right on my link tree. It's there. Copy to my kids to read. Oh my God, yes. And he's working on a coloring book right now, too, a children's coloring book. I love, this book's amazing. And you know, like we know some of the guys like Ralphie and Manuel and James, and you bought 5 of them. Oh gosh. And who else? Tommy Story. Like we know some of the guys in here. I'm trying to think who else I know. Is Cisco in here? I gotta check. I have mine in my car. Yeah, I got, as soon as Keith told me the book was available, I got it that the minute it was available. Let's see. I want to see who else I know. Yes, this goes here. Tommy. Carlos. I don't know Steven. Not yet. Not yet. I don't know Jay. Not yet. I think it would be good for them to see that everyone... Exactly. Oh no, let me see. I got a message. It's not letting him call back. We might have to do a part 2. We got halfway through. I don't want him to stress over it either. I don't want him to stress over it. Yeah, I can message him. He just messaged me. I want to let him know. Let me ask him what he wants me to do. Keith is amazing. All his books are available on Amazon. He has, and for those that have little ones, here, A Wiley's Wish, Fiona and Finn. This is amazing. And Keith did all. Wait, let me put my bookmarker in here. My bookmarker. I have Vinny's. I know, Katie, we send this to Kate, and here's my bookmarker. I keep my Vinny, my son, in there, and Keith's books all the time. Katie, I send this to Katie for the kids. She reads this to her kids. She's a school teacher. And then we have Unleashed. Amazing. Absolutely. Let him know, Keith. Jamie, will he be able to message me if it's out? I don't know how that works. I mean, he got the one through. Oh, wait, we have a new message. Jamie, could you come up? Keith said, wait a minute. Jamie, to help finish readings, I stopped on page 57, last paragraph, or should we just do a part 2? I like that idea, buy them as gifts. So he stopped on 57. Part 2, everyone's saying? We could do that. I think so. I like hearing. We could do part 2, no worries at all. All right, I could set that up because it doesn't have to be exactly, on a Friday. We do have a live plan next week, and that's fine. We could do part 2. Katie, I could do the read. We can do it. Yeah, exactly. You know what I noticed with the and I think Keith did too, and I think so did Jamie. I think when it gets later, the tablets start acting up. They do, James. Did you notice that when it gets later? Because that's what happened with Manny's the other night. Like this time, it was, I think it was 10 o'clock. It started. We couldn't even talk to him. So it does when it gets later. I bet more guys use them. Yeah. Okay, I could let him know. I could let him know. That's fine. But so everyone has time now to go grab your copy. It's on Amazon. The link's in my bio. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, all three of his books are available on Amazon. They're all in there. I mean, are they at my arm's reach? They're right next to me. All of them are right there. And he did all the illustrations. And look, I got Jake in this one. I got Jake in this book. I have I have bookmarks with my kids in these. My grandson, like he did all these illustrations in this book. Keith did all these. Like, is he awesome or what? He did all those. So we have Unleashed, we have Fiona and Finn, A Wiley's Wish, and now we have the Trauma Unraveled. And you could get them on Amazon. The link is right in my link tree. You could go right on my page, hit my link tree, and you could get it right there. They're all available there. And they're priced really reasonable. Oh my God, Jamie, they love it, the kids. They really do. And Jamie, I don't know how many times I've heard his story, and it's still, Keith's story gets to me every time. That's why I have to go to the side every time I hear it. I just, every time, I just have to, it gets to me. So for those of you that don't know, Jamie, that's in the comments, that is Keith's wife. I am so fortunate to call them my family, Jamie and Keith. Hey, Steve. I don't know, Steve. I know, I cry every time. I know, right? Every time I hear that story, it just, and I've heard it, you know, Jamie, he's told his story quite a few times on the live, and every time it just, it really gets to me. His story. I know his story. Keith has been nothing but open with us, and it just hits me. But I've been very fortunate to get to know Keith and Jamie. They are like my own family. I'm very blessed to have them in my life. And no, we never met. People, they think that we, they think Keith is like, they think he's my son. He's like a son. They think he's related to me. We're like family, but no, we never met. We met doing this. We met on the app, and we became that close. We'll meet someday, trust me. The day Keith walks out that prison, we're going to meet. We're going to meet when he leaves prison. That's one thing. Wait, what did I miss? Cindy, you showed what? I showed it to her and she loved it. That's right. There's Mom's in there. The day he walks out, we're going to meet. I've never been to California, but I'm going to be there. We're going to be there. And I'm not saying when. I'm not saying if. I'm saying when he walks out. He'll be out. That's right. He's leaving with Finn. uh, they got this. They got this. They're amazing. Amazing couple. So kind. Jamie, by the way, do you feel better? I didn't even get a chance to ask you. I know last weekend when I talked to you on Sunday, it was Sunday when we spoke, you weren't feeling well. I hope you're feeling better. But yeah, let me make sure I don't have any more messages. And no, I don't. But yeah, we stopped halfway through. I have the page marked. So I'll talk to Keith. I'll be talking to him over the weekend, of course. And we can plan to do the rest. We'll do a part 2. We'll finish it up. Tommy actually wanted to be here, but he's traveling also. Tommy had to go back home to pick up his dad's remains. His dad passed away. And he's traveling back home, so he said he would like to join us, and he will. I keep this book right here because I was reading it also. We actually got way past what I did, but I appreciate everyone being here tonight. It's really been... Everyone loves hearing Keith read the books. They absolutely love it. So Keith didn't get the book itself, I guess, he said. This is so sad. I mean, I guess I'm glad he got to spend time with his dad. Yeah. At least he got to spend some time with his dad. I know it is. It's sad. But, yep. So does anybody have any questions about the book or any questions like what was in the book? If you do, you could ask me now. I mean, and then, like I said, I will talk to Keith and we can go over, but of course, we'll post a date. Katie will do a commercial for us. Next week, we have an author that's joining us, Jonathan. I have to get all the information from Keith. I have his name, everything. I mean, I want to see how he wants it worded, what we're going to do. Only if you promise to read. Listen to Katie. Sure, Katie, I promise. You're a trip. You're funny. Katie's torturing me. Oh, she doesn't stop. I love her. Oh, God. I needed that tonight. I did. But, so if no one has any questions, we're probably going to end it here. We will, we'll pick it up on Monday then. Well, not the book. We're going to probably, I'll talk to Keith over the weekend, and Jamie, I will give you a call. We have to catch up this weekend. I'll give you a call over the weekend. If we didn't, you would think we were me. Oh, God. Too funny. But, so, all right, everyone. I really appreciate everyone joining. I will talk to Keith. I'll ask him when's a good time to continue the reading. We are going to go over to the other app if one of the mods want to put the name, because I had no restrictions at all today, and I'm not getting restricted now. So if you want to put the name of the app we're going to go over to, that's it, Paula. We could pin that. We're going to go over to that app right now and finish out tonight there. If you have that app, we're going to go over there now because I'm going to end this, and then so I can download this, and we'll have it over on, I'll have it on YouTube by tomorrow, the latest Sunday. But if I don't see you over on Favorite It, we will see everyone on Monday. I'll be live Monday at 2:30. So everyone have a good rest of your night and a good weekend. I will see you on Monday, and I'll get the date for you when we're going to continue this. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for the likes, the taps. Thank you for sharing and all the gifts. I did see them. I just can't say anything while we're doing, while we're live. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate you being here. And join us. I'll let Jamie know, and I'll give her a call over the weekend. But thank you so much. It was great having you here. So yeah, we're going to go over to the other app and handle that, Lauren. All right, everyone, have a good